I mean, for me, it's always the music that starts first. It's just writing riffs. Like I just write riffs and keep on writing riffs until songs start to take a shape. And then and then for me, I try and write lyrics to what I write, but sometimes the music, sometimes when you write lyrics to a song, it's like you kind of want to force the song to go one way, but sometimes the song's like, no, it's got to go this way. So it's like you never really know. And I think it's just a kind of matter of taking the time and being able to step back away from it every now and then, and look at the big picture of what you got musically and where everything is. And I knew I wanted to make a concept record early on, like right at the beginning of the pandemic. I remember my wife, we were all stuck in the fucking, I'm doing acoustic happy hours on Friday and then just go home and sit with my wife and get drunk in the garage. so, so when, we're listening to tons of music and talking, and it was actually great. Like I got to say, like, I really enjoyed that time, like just being able to reconnect with her and just slow down and, we're listening to, we both love My Chemical Romance, The Black Parade. And so we're listening to that, and she's like, you need to do a concept record. And I was like, I want to, but I just don't know if I can, like, I don't know if I can tie it all together. And, it's a big undertaking
Yeah.
that I don't think always works. When it does work, it's amazing, but I've definitely heard concept records that like I never got the concept at all. And, I think just as it started to form together and the song started to piece together, I was like, I can do this. Like I can make this work. You know. The album is not about Attack on Titan. Like it was inspired by it in the sense that, my kids my two teenage boys got super into anime, and back in when I was a kid, about their age, I was super into anime, and like I was a total like I started off as a Star Wars nerd,
Yeah.
and then I became an anime nerd, and then I became a metal nerd. So, and then somewhere around the '90s, I kind of like, I just lost touch with anime. Like I didn't not like it. I just stopped kind of paying attention. And it was really cool to see them get back into it. Like they got into it just totally on their own. And I was like, dude, I'll watch this shit with you. Like this is sick. Like I love it. And so we all started watching it together as a family. And the part of it that inspired me was that there's these two groups of people, and they're both doing horrible shit, evil shit to each other. But in the series, they both believe that they're doing the right thing. And that was the part of it that helped kind of form the concept of this for me, that there was no good or bad guy, which is like the traditional American story arc.
Yeah.
Both sides believed that they were good, but they were both bad. And so that was what, once I kind of like was able to kind of piece all that together in my head, then I started writing. And for my whole career, I've written as, you know my view of society, or the things I've experienced, or whatever. And now I'm writing through two different characters' minds.
Yeah.
Like I'm writing as somebody else, and having to like look at life through their lens and look at life through the other lens. And it was just, like it'd be way more violent and murderous, and it really opened up like a whole thing for me, and it was really, really cool writing like that. Yeah, I mean, I felt like, the story lent itself to that. It's a concept album based around, two characters, Ares and Eros. And Ares loses the love of his life, Amethyst, and he goes on a murderous rampage against the people who killed her. And then Eros is loses his mother to a drug overdose, and then spirals, downward spiral for him. He becomes radicalized by this crazy group and goes on his own murderous rampage. And so the record's about how their lives intertwine. And for me, the opening track, like when I knew that when I knew that the whole thing was going to work, was when I got the opening track tied together. That was because the opening track is basically character number one's origin story. Yeah. That's Aries' origin story. He's just lost the love of his life, and he is now setting off on his own path. And the record kind of goes back and forth in time about like where the story is, but that moment set everything in place to me, and tied the whole story together. Yeah, there's a lot of harmonizing between Jared and I on the whole record. And we really worked on that. I think that we really found this cool. It was kind of crazy too, because we, right when the pandemic hit, I was the only person allowed into this. This is my studio where I'm at. I don't know if you can see this.
Yeah.
But I was the only person allowed, and I was like, we had been on tour for 5 months already. We had a whole year of tour dates ahead of us, and it was like, fuck. And I just needed to make music. I just needed to go play, and I was like, well, I don't want to go down there and just jam on electric guitar by myself. That's weird. And so I just started doing. I called it acoustic happy hour. I would just go drink beer and play acoustic songs, like on Facebook Live, and everybody was locked down. Like we couldn't do anything, and the first few of them were pretty, just bad. But like I just didn't care. Like I just want to fucking play, and this is just passing the time, and gave me something to do. And then when Jared came, once some of the lockdown kind of got a little lighter, Jared was able to come down. And then he and I just started really working on like just other acoustic songs. Like we still continued the acoustic happy hour and really just working on our voices and like really getting them to mesh. And, they already always beautifully meshed, but just really, focusing on, the harmonies and harmonizing and dude, it really just spilled over into the record, like this kind of dumb hobby that we were doing just to pass time during the pandemic really it kind of rewired our brains, and we really just started putting that into the record, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I'm singing heavy at that point.
Yeah.
Like we're not. I mean, there is a lot of harmonizing in Machine Head, but it's not anywhere near to a 2-hour acoustic show.
Yeah.
And so it was awesome, and then I took some vocal lessons from Melissa Cross just to kind of like I knew like, cause I'm not a clean singer. Like I'm like the last 30 years of my life has been, brutal, death growls and screeches and, heavy singing, Machine Head singing. And, to really, and I never worked on clean singing. I did it. And I knew I could do it, and I did it good. But then I started, when I'm doing it regularly, I was like, it wouldn't go where I wanted it to. And I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. And so I started taking the lessons, and, just it totally opened up my whole mind. Like, oh, okay. Like, I know I need to do this now. I could, and it was a big eye opener. It was awesome. And I loved the fact that I was just taking the time to fucking learn something, like I'm fucking locked down. I can't do shit. I can't go anywhere. Like I'll just fucking learn something. I started working on the songs for the record in 2018 while we were on the Catharsis tour. I had riffs going. I'm kind of always writing. Like I just always write, and whether it turns into something, I don't know. But my brain, like I can write a riff, and like I can remember that riff for like a decade. Like even if I never do anything with it, like I can remember a riff, which is a gift and a curse. But like I started doing it then, and then just other songs kind of came together quicker, and then we were releasing. I wanted to just release songs I wanted to just release standalone singles
Yeah.
because I really feel like, I love that we're in an era where I could record a song today and it could be up everywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, tomorrow. Like that's amazing. Like that's fucking awesome to me. And I think it's so cool. And so, I had a lot of ideas, but then, we just kind of feeling everything out and see what felt like it went together. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't, I wanted to put out, Stop the Bleeding because at the time, it was important to put it out when we put it out.
Yeah.
And so, we just started forming it and, we just kind of chipped away at it a little bit, like every week. I mean, we just did a little bit on it every week. And we, in a lot of ways, um, I grew up in the thrash scene.
Yeah.
Like I had everybody's demos, like I had bootlegs of every, like Exodus and Slayer, like I had fucking all that shit like months and months and months and months before the record came out. Like I was a super diehard, like way into it. And like sometimes you'd hear a band's demo like back then,
Yeah.
and the demo would just be fucking unbelievable. You're like, oh my God, this is the sickest shit ever. And then you hear the record and you're like, like that, what happened? Like, it's not like something got lost along the way. There's this kind of magical energy. And, when we were doing this, it's like, because this, I got my own place and then we recorded we recorded the record between here and then the studio that we did The Blackening and Through the Ashes of Empires at, which is 20 feet down the hall, right down the hall. So, I'd just I'd do it here or go down the hall and it would just, just that constant, like we were basically demoing, like we were capturing like all these things, but instead of it, being put out as a demo, we just saved it and used it on the record. And, there's so many moments on this album where it's like, it's the first time Jared played a bass line. It's the first time I recorded a guitar track. It's the first time I sang something, like, and it was these crazy magical moments. It is like that demo feeling,
Yeah.
except for we kept it and saved it for the record. And I think that was a big part of this. There was a lot of that going on. And I feel like we just captured these crazy moments and we were fortunate enough to have this stuff here to do that.
So
Exactly the same. I mean, like I would literally bring in lyrics, and this is the first time I've ever sang any of this stuff that I wrote. I don't have a melody. I'm just like making it up off the top of my head. And just this fucking magic, I genuinely believe, Neil Young talks about this a lot. Neil Young talks about like sometimes the first take, the first time you try something can be one of the most magical things you do because you don't know what you're doing.
yeah.
And I fully believe that. Like, like you don't know what you're doing. You're just kind of like willing to try anything and like, sure, it might suck, but it might be fucking great. And I mean, there's a lot of that happened on this record, and it was exciting. It was really exciting doing that.
Yeah, it's crazy because I was watching something on Netflix, the David Letterman thing, and he had Billie Eilish there. And
I just watched that the other night. I just watched that 2 nights ago.
okay, so you saw probably the part where Phineas, recording like Billy's voice. He had like
Right.
a
All
word.
the comps.
Yeah.
Yeah, the vocal comps. Yeah.
And
No, that was awesome. I was so glad they showed that because that's such a big thing. Like I do the same thing. I comp, I do like 5 takes of a vocal, and then like I said, like if it's the first time I'm singing it, like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just trying anything. And sometimes I listen back and I'll be me and my engineer Zach, and we'll be like, oh no, like grab that part. That was really good. And then, you piece it together and this fucking crazy magical thing happens.
yeah, but when I was watching that, I was just getting so like the anxiety levels were so high for me because I was seeing stuff like the way that he was explaining, like I just took this word, I took that word, okay, this is another take, another one, and I was like,
Right.
when do you stop? Just
Yeah.
But
it's a lot more common than you'd think. Like that happens a lot. You know, people don't really talk about it, but
Yeah.
that happens a lot. And that, I mean, that's most recordings really, but
Yeah.
you know, nobody
That's
really talks about it.
yeah, that's the advantage of the digital age when you have Pro Tools or whatever,
I mean,
digital
even
so
back like, I mean, on Burn My Eyes, there was that shit was going on, you know. I mean, like probably didn't happen very much like in the 60s, like when bands had like 1 day to record the whole
yeah.
record and then get out. But, you know, certainly since the 70s and, you know, certainly since I've been recording, it's been like that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really listen to any of our records, you know, to just so it's said. I could change something on every record that we've ever released, you know. Uh, I mean, going back to Burn My Eyes on the Blackening, I could change stuff. Um, you know, I'm proud of every record I've put out,
Yeah.
all 9 records over the last 28 years that I've released from Machine Head. You know, I'm proud of the 3 records that I put out with Violence. I'm proud of the stuff that I put out on Roadrunner United. I'm proud of the stuff that I put out with Forbidden Evil before I was in Violence. Um, you know, to me, a record is a snapshot of, it's literally just a photograph of where a band is at
Yeah.
that moment. And, you know, that's what it is, what it is. Oh, it was a dream come true. I mean, it launched Machine Head into the stratosphere, you know, and I got to give Kerry King a lot of credit for that, man. I mean, he really believed in us and took a shot on us, and it was, I mean, for me, it was a total, like, I fucking, Slayer was the band. I had seen Slayer more than any other band in thrash metal. You know, like I used to drive to LA, to Sacramento, to Fresno. Like me and my friends would take road trips to go see, like, we fucking loved Slayer. And so, you know, when we finally got the gig, it was like, holy fuck, this is amazing. You know, they took us all over Europe. They took us to America. It was, you know, we did 5 months with Slayer. It was great. You know, I got to see 88 free Slayer shows, you know, like, and I watched every night. Like there was not a night that I didn't catch at least even part of the show. And, you know, I felt very fortunate for that. And, you know, I mean, certainly my memories of Portugal, you know, Portugal was kind of crazy back then. Like
Yeah.
it was fucking nuts. Like there was a really, I remember like a lot of people on heroin. Like that was one of my biggest memories, is that I could see people in the stands shooting heroin and then taking the needle and throwing it up into the ceiling, and the needle would just stick in the ceiling of the venue. And I was like, this is fucking nuts. And and then the end of the show, and the show was fucking violent as fuck. It was awesome. Like it was sick. And crowd went crazy. And then at the end of the night, this is my most vivid memory of my first time ever playing in Portugal, is that at the end of the night I walked like through the front of the venue, like where the crowd would
Yeah.
have been, but it's now the show's over. And they were sweeping up all the beer cans, and they were sweeping up all the beer cups, and they were pushing it up against the barricade. And it was just beer cups and a giant pile of black hair. It was just so much thick black hair all on the front of the fucking, and I was like, this place is fucking sick. I love Portugal. So
Great memories. Well, I can tell you that we're much better when it comes to drugs and stuff like that. It's
dude, you know, I tell you what, I've watched your country just improve. So, I mean, it's been wild, honestly, like
yeah.
watching like the fucking, you know, like your economy gets so much stronger, and like the whole, like, you know, drug thing get under control, and really like Portugal's one of our most favorite places on earth to play. So we love it. And to just see how well the country is doing and how robust you guys are, it's amazing.